All right, let's get started. Today I'm going to be reading A Rose for Emily by William Faulkner. Uh, and I'm going to be using indoor voice because of my current living situation. It requires me to be quiet, so I'll be speaking like this today. Um, Here's what I know about A Rose for Emily. It's a super famous short story. There is a very high chance I've read it before, and I just don't remember. Uh, it's kind of embarrassing, but here's what I just did a quick skim of what the story is about without trying to find the ending out. But basically, there's a character named Emily. She loses some family. She's being weird about it. And she's holding herself up like a little recluse in her house, and not really doing and she's like hiding the body. Now, I have this vague memory that I think the what do you call it? I think Emily actually like sleeps with a dead body or something like that. And I might be wrong about this, but I have this fuzzy memory of this, or this fuzzy feeling about it, like I've read this story before. Um, so I'm kind of aiming at not really the plot when I'm reading this. Danish, what's up? Thanks for the likes. I'm really focusing more on the sort of. I think I already know how it ends, roughly, but I'm more focused on William Faulkner, the way he kind of unsettles us. And, William Faulkner is like a sort of giant of modernism and of Southern Gothic, you know, in the in the aftermath of the Civil War, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, living through a kind of like morally precarious period in the South. I think he's from Mississippi. With all the what the racism, the backlash, the inability to kind of move forward from the South, like he's living with this sort of like in the modern era where the ideals and the vision of what a proper society is has been shattered, right? Because they were defeated in war, and what the kind of nobility that they stood for, it all um, we're telling them, no, you guys are assholes. You guys were slave owners. It's how do you live with that, right? So that's the sort of general background that I do know about William Faulkner, although I'm actually embarrassingly poorly read in terms of William Faulkner. Um, so I'm kind of I know what his techniques are. His techniques are like stream of consciousness and multiple perspectives and unreliable narrators. So I'm kind of when I'm reading this, I'm gonna look into Pujan, what's up? I'm going to be looking into kind of the way that he unsettles us, and and let me see if I can like kind of engage with that emotionally as well as intellectually. So, a rose for Emily. Oh, and this is a thought I had earlier. Emily being like this weird recluse. I have this like weird thought. I mean, I don't see why logically this would ever make sense, but like you know, uh, Emily Dickinson is such a major presence in American literature, right? So I feel like weird recluse living by herself in her house, doing weird things. Emily Dickinson? Is that a shout out? I have no idea. All right, so um yeah, you know what? I will rate the character, sure. I'll rate the character once I read it. So this is my first time reading this in like this might be my first time ever reading this, but probably I read it in middle school or in high school. So we'll see. Okay. Um, we'll see if I actually remember the story as I go. Um, Probably if I have to rate Emily the character, it'll probably be pretty low, right? Because I think she's like sleeping with a corpse, something weird like that, right? All right, here we go. So that's A Rose for Emily. I'm predicting, you know, there to be layers kind of like slowly unfolding or slowly being peeled, and then us getting to this sort of rotten, sort of grotesque core of the story. And that's what I'm expecting. Okay, here we go. Paper. He considers himself the sheriff. Okay, so I forget. Yeah, I forgot about the dialogue aspect. No taxes, Miss Emily. No taxes. Tobe, show these gentlemen out. Okay, so one thing that's interesting already from that first chapter is the relationship between the police and the um, the good Southern white woman. Yeah, very cordial, you know, and she has the authority. She has the authority. This is very unlike when you think about the police these days, right? In the 21st century, after Black Lives Matter, you're thinking of the exact opposite relationship, right? But this is the relationship I guess you should be having with the police. At least, wow, the CSS. Sorry, I got distracted. I changed. This CSS on the YouTube chat on my screen down here is so ugly. Dude, what happened? Yo, it's so ugly. I'm going to change it. Oh my god. It's the ugliest CSS. Oh, dude, I have to change it. Um, God, that's bad. I'm gonna do something minimal. Wow, I didn't test that. I didn't test that before starting. Dude, whose idea was it to? All right, that's doable. That's boring and doable. Thank you. Wow, that was ugly. Okay, so sorry. I interrupted myself mid thought. But basically, uh, that's the relationship that you should be having with the police. And even like me living in Korea, that's the relationship I have with the police, right? The police have authority, but so do I, right? And this is the initial kind of the southern way, the way that you treat each other with hospitality, right? You're kind of getting that vibe right off the bat. Have I read much of Faulkner's? No, I've not. I'm actually kind of a nub with Faulkner. I have one other stream for Faulkner, which was for a relatively unknown story. And I want to do another Faulkner called Barn Burning, because that was one of the inspirations for one of my favorite movies ever. But yeah, I've not actually read that much Faulkner. All right, chapter two or part two, here we go. Vanquish them. About the smell. Okay, dude. So 30 years have passed. So but we're dropped right into the middle of a conversation in media res, right? And then we're dropped 30 years before, 2 years after the death. Oh no, this oh my god, the version of this story that I have has a lot of typos. Ah, that's annoying. Okay. At all. A few of the ladies had the temerity to call but were not received, and the only sign of life about the place was Negro man. A young man then going in. Okay, so I'm gonna have to just because I don't wanna stop my stream just because of the technicality here. I'm going to use my brain to predict what it's saying. Okay, it's not the ideal experience. The gross teeming world, high mighty Griersons. Okay, new family. Judge Stevens. Isn't there a law? Wait, so this is all the smells, right? This is the neighbors talking about the smell. Yeah. So she's keeping her father's body. with her. Maybe she's delusional that she never really accepted that he died. Okay, we've got to do something. So everyone's very polite. They can't bring it up with him, with her, I mean, to her face of smelling bad. Okay, again, this is we're in that world. We're in the world of the South, right? Where there's ideas about propriety, about the way you behave. Slunk about the house, sprinkled lime. The light behind her, which is, by the way, I love that. The light behind her and her upright torso motionless. So this describes her like an idol, like a little statue. That is creepy. It's creepy with just the bare minimum of words. Um, it's creepy. Like I can imagine that movie scene. Old Lady Wyatt, her great aunt, had gone completely crazy. So the Griersons is that family, and they held themselves a little too high for what they really were. Okay, there we go. Comment here. A lot of you guys will see this in your literature classes where there's like these old Southern belles and the old Southern aristocracy, and they're holding on to a certain kind of dignity, right? And even though the world has changed, um, that's something I didn't really vibe with when I was a kid. I didn't understand why that was an important theme at all. Um, but I guess it's kind of the tragedy of not being able to move on. You know what? I don't have the terminology. I don't have the phrasing right now to make this hit. So I'll sit on this for a bit. If I can come up with a different way of phrasing this thought, like a more effective way, I'll come back to this. 30, still single, not pleased, but vindicated. Right. Humanized. Right. Because she was kind of arrogant in a way. Her father was not dead. Oh, they buried. Wait. They buried her father. Oh, what? They did bury her father. So now I don't know what's going on. Okay. So what's the smell? Okay, I don't know. Homer Baron, big dark ready. Okay, popular guy comes in. So, Miss the Emily Dickinson connection, I feel like is very, very off. Okay, so I'm gonna drop that hypothesis. Hmm. Driving in the buggy. So she's meeting a northerner, a laborer. Huh. So she's falling in love apparently. So this is the sort of, but we're getting everything through rumors, right? So that's why it's kind of like, what's going on? Poor Emily. She was fine. Right, because she's now w- with a low born person. Hmm. So I'm guessing she kills Homer Baron, which is like weird. She's burying the sin of the past by committing a sin on the Northerner. I don't know. Hmm. He was not a marrying man. Right. He's coming into town. He's sweeping the the old aristocrat girl Emily off her feet, seducing her. We're all like, poor Emily. How could it all go so wrong? Cigar teeth in his teeth, reins and whip in a yellow glove. Bad example. The Baptist minister. He refused to go back again. Oof. Okay, so something weird is happening where the minister does not explain what happens. Her family gets involved. They were supposed to get married. Oh, she does kill him. Was gone. Wait, what? Prepare for Miss Emily's coming to get rid of the cousins. Sure enough, he's back. Okay, I see. He was gone from when? I don't fully understand, but okay. And then he comes back, and then now he's gone. As if that quality of a father which had thwarted her woman's life, though so many times had been too virulent and too furious to die. Mm. She had grown fat. Okay, up to the day of her death at 74. So we're fast forwarding to her death. And then we're probably, yes, now we're rewinding back to the in between time when she was about 40. She gave lessons in China painting. Taxes had been remitted. Grom fell away, did not send it to her with boxes. Yeah. So it's interesting. I think right now the sort of emotional, so there's two things happening. Obviously there's just a character and we're just trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the character. And I think she murders Homer and is like in bed with him or something like that. Something creepy like that, right? Um but then there's also the sort of allegorical, there's the sort of like, does she represent the South, right? The South's inability to move on from the Civil War. That's how it feels, at least, right? So that's, I mean, that's for me. I think the main intellectual fruit. That said, I am finding that this is a little simpler of a story than I expected. Mm, so I don't know. Is that disappointment that I'm feeling? I don't know what it is, but kind of hoping for more, whatever whatever that may be, however that may come. Okay, here we go. So the Negro in this case is the help, the hired help. Like the carven torso of an idol in a niche, looking or not looking at us, we can never tell which. Again, we get this torso, we get this idol language again, and it's weird. It's creepy. And I like that torso, I like the idol language. That is weird. Inescapable, impervious, tranquil, and perverse. Okay. And so she died. We didn't even know she was sick. Walnut bed with a curtain. Pillow yellow and moldy with age and lack of sunlight. That's gross. The first of the ladies let them in and was not seen again. He leaves. Okay. I'm actually kind of getting into it right now, dude. Okay. The female cousins came at once. The funeral on the second day. Above the bier. Wait, what's bier? Beer. Beer. Burr? What? I don't know how to pronounce that. All right. Sibilant and macabre. So, okay. Crayon face. Why is it crayon face? What's that mean? Is there a different definition of crayon? Okay, I don't know. As if she had been a contemporary, but she's not. Obviously, she was just this weirdo on the margin of society. Courted her, confusing time. They're like having kind of almost false memories of better years in the past, because that's what we do. Because that's what we do. And actually, I have to. It's hard for me to not say this. The South, I don't think ever fully had the moral reckoning. I can't speak. Ever fully morally reckoned with the sins of its past. By the way, no thanks to the North. By the way, I'm not totally on the North side with regard to our sort of attitude towards the South. Um, but the South never had a full moral reckoning. And here I am in Japan as a Korean, and Japan has never had a full moral reckoning. I cannot say that word right now. A full moral reckoning with its past as a colonial power, brutally massacring and raping the people of Asia, and this like sort of historic, and then, but then it's also true that we individuals as human beings, when we have a sin that kind of threatens to define us in our past, a sin in our past that threatens to sort of define us as a sinner, as a type of flawed or criminal or base human being, right? Our immediate reaction is to ignore it, and it's the most natural, it's the most human reaction, right? We want to forget the terrible thing that we did because we don't want to know, we don't want to think of ourselves as terrible, right? So the sort of conversations that we have about Japan, for example, is just, oh, how I think we're kind of, I mean, I think in America it's a little different because we kind of put the South through the ringer. We constantly, like, especially in the North, in the coastal cities, we just damn the South. We condemn the South so much that it's a totally different dynamic, actually. Um, Although, but in contemporary, for example, Japan, like, we don't really talk about the sins of Japan. Um, and I bet in early 20th century, in the early 1900s, we didn't really, like, there's a lot of Southern politicians, in power. We didn't really talk about the sins of the South, not at a personal level, right? We try to paper over it, try to remember the good, try to remember the good, establish those relationships. And that's what these people are doing with Emily right now. They're remembering, oh, maybe I had a dance with her back in the day, you know? Um, and we're just sort of softly, politely, um, elegantly even sort of burying the past. We knew that there was one room in that region above stairs which no one had seen in 40 years and which would have to be forced. And I like do like I don't remember the story, but I kind of remember this, but I kind of don't. The violent, like, I'm expecting a corpse. The violence of breaking down the door seemed to fill this room with pervading dust, a thin, acrid pall. This dust and this pall and the tomb gives me biblical vibes. Okay, what is it? Uh, Whitewashed sepulchers. I forget, something like that. It's giving me King James Bible vibes right now. Um, Seem to lie everywhere upon this room, decked and furnished as for a bridal. As for a bridal, okay. I just sorry, that word just hit me. It's weird. The tomb and the bridal simultaneously. It's processing slowly in my head. Upon the valence curtains, I don't know what that means. Of faded rose color, rose shaded dressing table, crystal. We got rose. We got crystal. We got man's. The man, is this a typo? Man's toilet things backed with tarnished silver lay collar and tie. Okay, it is man's toilet things. Collar, tie, as if they had just been removed. Hung the suit, two new shoes, the discarded socks. The man himself lay in bed. Profound and fleshless grin. Creepy. Profound and fleshless grin. It's here that we realize he's a skeleton, um, laying in the attitude of an embrace, but now the long sleep that outlasts love, that conquers even the grimace of love, had cuckolded him. Death cuckolded him. What was left of him, rotted beneath, had become inextricable. Oh, he's kind of like his his flesh and bone is kind of like melted into the bed. In a way, is the way I'm seeing that. Ugh. And then there's the even coating of the patient inviting dust, and there's an indentation of a head, iron gray hair. She used to sleep with him. Okay, there we go. Of course she did. Yeah. Okay. Um. No, actually, it picked up. It picked up at the end for me. It was a relatively easy read, so I see why this gets taught in high school. And it's the premise is simple. You're kind of just looking. I think, yeah, I think emotionally it's easier to connect to this story compared to some of the other stories that I've done on my YouTube. Because it's a creepy lady. It's a creepy lady, and it turns out she's sleeping with a corpse, right? Emotionally, it's relatively easy to connect as long as you, especially if you're sensitive to some of the language and you kind of like visualize, um, like what's happening. Like specifically for me, the kind of like hair raising terminology was the um, what's it? Her upright torso, uh, like an idol, and there she is, kind of looking or not looking at you, right? That's that classic horror movie scene where like you'll have like Chucky, like this little doll. Is the doll looking at you? Is the doll not looking at you? Right? It's such a good, and this is way before the movies, right? So it's such a good way to, because this was 1930, by the way. This is, you know, um, so it's such a good way of giving you, those words are so effective at making you feel, get the chills. And so as long as you're sensitive to the language, as long as you're paying attention to the scenes, as long as you're actually asking yourself, what the hell is going on, I think it's pretty easy to emotionally engage with this story. The harder part is actually the intellectual engagement. But for me, I mean, me being the age that I am, me having lived the life that I've lived, me thinking about the injustices in history, and thinking and being knowledgeable enough about history. I'm not the most knowledgeable, by the way, but enough knowledgeable. Um, it's it's that it's just that, yeah, it's just the multiple valences there, right? It's just the intellectual force of this story comes from how the South has never really reckoned with its past, and the way it's dealing with it is by kind of like burying it, and in a weird way even sleeping with it. You know what I mean? And what does that mean? And how how true is that? Those are further considerations, but like it feels like there's some sort of emotional truth there that's kind of resonating with the history of the South. And I think that's how you sort of access this story and kind of unlock it, to get more out of it. Um, I'm curious if any of my readers slash viewers, not readers, um, if any of my viewers have other insights into this story. But for me, I thought that was a pretty successful reading and engagement, just judged by how well I engaged. Um, I did kind of like I don't want to give myself like a like if I had to like grade myself on the amount on the quality of my engagement, I wouldn't give myself an A plus or anything like that because um I don't I kind of want to blame this ebook, but basically I kind of read a little quicker than I normally would because the typos were like I kind of was trying to counteract the typos in this ebook. So I have to give myself like a B plus, A minus, because I kind of rushed some bits here and there. But on the other hand, I still really enjoyed the story. It was actually pretty. It kind of hit on multiple levels for me, and I wasn't really expecting it. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember, but like halfway through the story, I was like, "This is kind of simpler than I expected." So I was like, not really feeling it at that moment, and then it suddenly picked up right after that. So I would say that was a good read. I would give myself like an A minus, I guess, for how engaged I got. Um, yeah, if only I had. So the lesson learned, I will probably not use. Is it archive.com? Um, Internet Archive. The EPUBs from Internet Archive, I will not use this for future streams. But I hope you guys were able to get some insight into this story by reading along with me. All right, so that's the stream. I don't see any questions, so I'm about to head out. It is 12:40 a.m. for me, so yeah. Hey, thanks for joining, guys. And I'm actually getting more viewers at the very last moment, but this is the end. So, hey, everyone, keep on learning, keep on growing. I'll see you guys in the next stream. Peace.